huge form of social activism is for you to do well in school. Absolutely, that's the key. The education process, you have to take charge of your own education. You can go to class, you can do what the profs say, but you also have to self-educate it. And this is a good place. I mean, this is the best. It doesn't matter what the name of the school is. It doesn't matter, you know. When you're in school, it's the greatest period of privilege in your life that you're going to ever have. It'll never be good like this again. And you take advantage of it. Learn what they have to teach you. Think about what they have to teach you and disagree with it, and it doesn't matter if they know you disagree or not. It's really about your own thinking. But do as much self-education as you can. I could give you like a list of things to read, but I mean, you just really have to be willing to let it come to you, which is what I do. Every time I go home, I take home 3 books that I didn't buy. I went to Boise, Idaho a couple of weeks ago, and the students kept saying, well, white students were saying, well, you know, we don't have that many here, so therefore we don't have the problem. Excuse me. That freaks me out. So I say, well, if you don't have any here, you need to find out why. And lo and behold, this woman gives me this 2 books. She gives me 3 books. And I open one, and the first paragraph says that in the 1850s, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon barred entrance of blacks to those 3 states. Okay? That was the law. They didn't want them in there. And the hint that I got, the most interesting thing about finding that out was that the same wording that I discovered in Saskatchewan, which is a province, right, you know, they said, we don't want the problem. And using the same word, so you have to be, the nice thing about being old is I've heard the same words keep getting used to convince people of things that are in their own worst interest. See, reject that language, okay? Reject your tendency to, you know, the stuff you're saying. Forget that. Because you're not making your own decision. That's the key here. You are being persuaded to think a certain way. If you look at the language, if you ever get to see a documentary when they were putting Japanese people in concentration camps, they used the same language, okay? So it's truly a formula. You need to see what it is and recognize it when you see it. So that's a big challenge to you, because you think you're smart, and you already think you know everything, and that's nice, because I got 3 sons just like you, and we argue and argue, which is wonderful. And argue with your friends. That's a good thing. But go into an argument with a certain amount of research and thought. The culture that you think is black culture is not black culture, because you don't know what a culture is because you're in the middle of it. Leave this country, see what the world is like. Just go away for a while. It doesn't matter where. And look at it from a distance. See what I think you can see. It's very interesting. It's like going up in a balloon and looking down, having a broader perspective. Read authors from outside this country, black ones as well as everybody else. Brainwashed, conditioned, keep spouting the same thing. You've got to read people from outside. You can even read, like Isabel Allende is a Latino writer, and she writes fiction. And she wrote a series of books about a relationship between South America and North America. And I learned more history about black people than I'd ever learned in a history book about the experience of black people in California in the, early 1800s. So you find these pearls in places that you didn't expect it. If we just keep reading our own, we'll still believe that this skin color determines everything. It is just a skin color. And the truth of it is, somebody would have us believe that it can determine our intellect, all these kinds of things. It cannot. What does determine our not our potential, but the actual truth of our existence is poverty, which is structured into this society in a very deep way. Lack of opportunity. If you read Savage Inequalities, listen to what people say on television, and they'll say, it doesn't do any good to throw money at the problem. Well, if it doesn't do any good to fund schooling, why is it the rich areas, the kids do better? It's not because they're smarter, it's because they have facilities for learning. Resources, okay? If it didn't do any good, how come they want money for their schools? The thing about early childhood education has been proven to predict success or lack of success later in life, even better than standardized testing. But we went out of that. We said, oh, we can't spend the money on these children. So listen to the kind of stuff that people say. There's no reason to throw money at the problem. It's just, and I always say, let them eat cake. And that's where we are right now. We're very much in the let them eat cake mindset. So if they haven't got bread, just let them eat cake. So you really shouldn't watch television, because it's the great brainwashing tool. And any time people who bring their kids up in the bush or whatever, they can either be persuaded to be militia people, or they can be persuaded to be thinkers. So that's a big conditioning tool, and you really need to think about it. What it can and does do to you in terms of the way you think. There's nothing on it anyway. I watched last night this long documentary on PBS about, it was primarily about oil. And it was all the stuff, because it's from an American point of view, and it's very, very like, oh yeah, and they spent their money